National Fire Radio.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the National Fire Radio podcast. I am Jeremy, the host of the National Fire Radio daily episodes on the audio channels. Thank you for joining us. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. If you've been here before, thank you. What we could ask, and what I do ask, is like, share, follow, subscribe to the channels on whatever audio platform you listen to, because it does help us in the ratings and it helps us push this forward. We have had unbelievable support by this community, and I am so proud and honored, and it holds us accountable to make sure that we continue to push out the very best content we can possibly give you. This week, April 17th, 2023, leading into FDIC. This is the week prior to FDIC. This means all of our loose ends have to be tied up before we leave this coming weekend as we head out for the week in Indy. FDIC, if you've never been, I suggest you try to get there. I know that there's conversations about it's expensive and it's hard to get there. It's hard to take a few days off. It's hard to afford it. I get that. But this is the largest trade show in America in regards to the fire service. And so if you can or have the opportunity to get there, please try to make that trip. I promise you this, between the exhibition and the hot training, it's the brotherhood and sisterhood that goes on there, and the networking and connecting. It is incredible. If you have the opportunity to get to FDIC, I strongly recommend you try to get there. Let me talk about a few things leading up to FDIC. The 2448 podcast. You'll hear an advertisement for them during the podcast. We are joining forces at FDIC this year. We're going to be in booth 13073 in the main corridor. We're going to be live podcasting from the booth during FDIC. Come find us. We're going to have guests and manufacturers in the booth having conversations, as well as doing some question and answer stuff and everything else in between. That's going to be a lot of fun. So come find us in booth 13073 in partnership with the 2448 podcast. A couple other things this week. Training partners. National Fire Radio presents Training Partners. You're going to hear about this in one of the podcasts this week about what Training Partners is all about. Something new that we're getting into, and we are very, very excited about that, and to share that with you, our community, this audience that has been so incredibly supportive. We are excited to bring you even more content in a different lane. Let's go. FDIC, we're going to be there. Like I said, we got a bunch of projects with a bunch of different manufacturers. Pip from the Size Up, he's going to be working with Mercedes Textiles and doing some health and wellness stuff from the Mercedes booth, and we'll get you more information on that. Our large project this year, we're going to be working with Rev Group. Rev Group is the parent company to many different manufacturing brands of fire apparatus. We'll be in Rev Group's booth this year. We're going to be there Thursday and Friday from 2 to 4 both days. We're going to be doing live walkarounds of the TDA on Thursday. They're going to have a tractor drawn aerial there. We're going to be doing a live walkaround with Steve Crothers and the crew from Tractor Drawn Aerial, as well as the aerial specialist from Rev Group. So look for that. And then after that, we're throwing a happy hour. It's Tiller time in the Rev booth. Join us in the Rev booth on Thursday from 2 to 4 for It's Tiller Time happy hour. And then on Friday, we're going to be doing a walk around on one of their brush trucks and their electric engine. We're going to be doing a walk around as well. And the crowd can follow us as we do our apparatus innovation type content. And then obviously it's happy hour, and we're going to share a few cold ones with the people coming through the booth. So that's in the Rev Group booth on Thursday and Friday from 2 to 4. We're looking forward to meeting you, seeing you, taking pictures, and just having great conversations and tell you what we're doing at FDIC. And lastly, I want to talk about this, our sponsors. Without our sponsors, this podcast channel just isn't possible. And so please, give us another minute or two of your time before we roll into the daily episode and give our sponsors a listen. Our first sponsor of the podcast, Taylor's Tins. Taylor and his crew from Taylor's Tins have been manufacturing metal helmet fronts since 2017. With over 200,000 metal fronts in the market, they are a leader in the metal helmet front space. Their creativity as well as customer service sets them apart from the competition. They are manufacturing one-offs within 24 to 48 hours to ship to your door. Not only that, but head over to taylorstins.com and you'll see all the other products that they offer. Right now on their homepage, they have a whole page dedicated to vintage metal prints. It's so cool to see the original prints of the fire apparatus, fire hydrants, fire helmets, fire boots, flashlights. It's so cool. They are printed metal tins that hang on the wall that are aged and look to be from the original days of when these prints were drawn, looking for copyright and trademarks. It's really cool. Taylor and his crew are super creative. They're always pushing the envelope as to what products they offer to the fire service. Check them out at www.taylorstins.com. That's, again, taylorstins.com to get a hold of Taylor and his crew. And in the words of Taylor, stop burning up leather. This episode's brought to you by the 2448 Podcast. If you're a first responder with an entrepreneurial streak, check out the 2448 Podcast. Hosted by Sam Massa, who built lighting company High-Vis LEDs. During his off time, he serves as a volunteer firefighter and professional EMT. Each week, we tell the stories of different first responder-owned businesses, from small startups to food trucks to companies like National Fire Radio and Fire Department Coffee. Available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Go to the2448.com for more information. That's www.the2448.com for more information about this killer podcast. And if you're coming to FDIC this year, join us in booth 13073, right by the entrance in the main hallway, where National Fire Radio, yes, us, in conjunction with the 2448 Podcast, will be teamed up for live shows throughout the duration of FDIC. It's going to be a killer week out in Indy. Join us at booth 13073 right in the main hallway, where you come right into the convention center. We're going to be right there live broadcasting throughout the week. Come see us. Guys, thanks for checking it out. Check out the 2448 Podcast. And now, without further ado, the daily episode. Hey everyone, Jeremy, National Fire Radio. Welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is with a guy that makes me happy. This guy makes me smile. I got to know him a few weeks ago down in Fairhope, Alabama. This guy is a lieutenant with the City of Atlanta, Georgia Fire Department. 16 years in the fire service, 11 years with Atlanta. He's currently a lieutenant in Company 14, which is one of a few special ops companies in the city of Atlanta. He's an instructor for Fire Life Training, which is a training company that Todd Edwards heads up. And not only that, but he's just an all-around happy freaking dude, man. Brandon Lewis, welcome to the podcast, my man.
Man, thanks for having me, man.
This is cool. Like, I talk about this a lot because, like, as the podcast has gone on over the years now, the guests that I bring on are typically people that are referred to me from other guests or people who we've had, and I love that because I talk about circles in the fire service and how the circle that Brandon Lewis runs in is different than my circle, but somebody in both of our circles is in each other's circle as well, so they overlap. And one of those guys, I mean, Todd Edwards obviously has been on the podcast before. Todd's a friend, and I know he's a mentor of yours, and I know that you work with him with Fire Life Training, which is his training company, and you guys used to be on the job together when he was still in Atlanta, and so on. But another one, Mickey Farrell. You and Mickey have hit it off over the years and gotten to know each other very well, and I know he speaks very highly of you too. And so my point of this long ramble is when somebody I respect says, hey, you got to meet this guy, he's a rock star, well, the first thing I do is reach out to him. And so, Brandon Lewis, you are one of those fellas, man. I met you a couple weeks ago. And it was so cool, man. You have this way about you that is absolutely infectious in how you love to celebrate just life, man. Like, you're smiling, you're happy, you're grateful, you're humble. And not only that, but I hear you're a great freaking fireman too, pal. So what's this package? Where's it all come from?
Dude, hey man, you said nice things about me, man. I appreciate it, man. It's a lot of it is just being lucky for me, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what it's people who are lucky. You smile all the time. I feel like, you know, thus far in my career, and I still got like at least half one to go, but thus far in my career, I've hit the lottery every time there's something, you know, the things come about my way, right? So like, I started out in Columbus. And Columbus, Georgia.
Yep.
And it's a mid-major size department in like South Georgia, like an hour and a half from here, right? And it was It was literally to get my certs because I was going to try to go back home. I'm from Toledo, Ohio originally.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I got family on the job up there anyway. So, and I wanted to go somewhere and get my certs and then hurry up and hightail it back home, right? That's what I thought in my mind. Well, when I got down here to Georgia, I was like, I really like it down here. Like, Georgia's great. And not only that, but I really love being in the fire department, being in the fire service. So I want to go to a big city department.
Well, what was the draw to Georgia though?
So Georgia,
because you can get your certs anywhere, right? So like,
let me let me tell you, it's like the lottery, like I was telling you, right? So for whatever reason, I put in a lot of these different applications.
Yeah,
I pretty much put in an application anywhere that I knew somebody.
Okay.
And I feel like I turned in my application in Columbus and they called me in like, I don't know, like a day or so. And I was like, my God, I guess I gotta go now. Yeah. I guess I gotta go now. I guess that's the thing, right? So I ended up getting down to Columbus, and it was really like, first off, I never said nothing bad about Columbus Fire Department. It was a great fire department.
Yeah.
The thing that I really took from there was what's the word? How do I put this? Like, I guess old school in the way that I probably wouldn't have experienced in probably any other fire department. Let's put it like this. I started there in early 2008 when I got to the station, and we were still using like the red book.
Yeah.
Like to write like the red log books.
Yep.
And it was old school like that. And I liked it. It was great, but I had kind of had this drive because YouTube, I guess, I don't know what it was, but for whatever reason, I was like, yeah, I know that they're fighting fire in big city like every day. I want to go somewhere and just like really be in it.
Yeah.
And so I put it on my application to Atlanta. And then the same thing happened. They called me in like 2 days. I was like, God, so I ended up coming up here and do the CPAD or whatever. And I met it's a captain, he's here, but I met him out front of pad 22s. I got lost. And I go over and say, hey, I'm talking to the guy. And at the time, I didn't know he's a captain. I think he's just, just hanging out pretty casual. Hey, man, can you tell me how to get downtown? He says, yeah, no problem. I can tell you how to get there. You take this road. I think I had to go down like North Side or whatever and then get all the way to downtown where the CPAP building was, right? So I'm talking to him. He's showing me the rig. He's real nice. He's real relaxed and stuff. And he goes, I go back, he takes me back in and says, you want coffee? Come in, you have coffee too, whatever, right? So I come in, drink coffee, and the guy say, hey, Cap. And I was like, oh, God, I've been talking to a captain for like an hour, like I wasn't being like, not now, I wasn't talking to him with the reverence of that, and he never came off like, I'm Captain Linquist,
Right.
He was really cool and relaxed. So
Yep.
I was like, Atlanta's got to be a great place. I want to work here. So did the CPAD or whatever and got hired here. Went to the academy not that long because I had all my certifications.
Okay.
So that was another stroke of luck for me because they didn't have a fast track program, but we only had to stay for a little while just because they had, certifications or whatever.
Right.
Ended up going to Lakewood, number 2. It was a great time, man. It's been great, man.
No, I love it. So I want to break all this down though, because you talk like so fast, and I love it. I want to slow you down. Right? No, I love it because you're excited. Like that's the thing that really stuck with me when we met. Like I was like, man, this guy just loves life. Like and for you to say you're lucky, there might be some luck to it, brother. But you have ambition. You have drive and desire. You're chasing the job. You're chasing fires. You want to go to a place that's going to give you what you need, right? And so, I'm a firm believer we make our own luck in a lot of the decisions that we make.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I do agree. I think, that's living how, when you live in you're grateful for the things that come to you. And I look at it and say, well, with the fire service, I don't ever feel like it owes me a thing. Like I got right now, like I told you, I came from Ohio, right? So This is just the explanation, not to get too far off. But like I came from Ohio. I didn't know a lot of people when I got here.
Sure.
Just a couple. Yeah, I had a cousin who stayed down here, and just a couple people who were in that area that I was at. And through that whole thing, all the things that you gain from it, you get friends, you get people who, when you were if I was in a tight spot, I didn't know anybody but probably another fireman.
Right.
Even at times where places where, you have something unfortunate happen at your house, you need somewhere to be, you go up to the firehouse, there's guys up there to take care of you. So it's, a lot of guys who have the attitude, I guess, to say like it owes them something sometimes. I try to tell them, hey man, we get more from this job than we give to it. Because as lucky as I am to be in the spot that I am, if it was another guy in my spot, he probably would give about the same amount of effort. So you always have to be grateful. I always have to be gracious with the things that you get because, in a heartbeat, I could go in here and look on the computer and see I got reassigned to 27. So what happened? I guess I'm trying to make the best of it and still keep giving back. And then hopefully, that'll be a good experience for me too.
But where does that come from?
I guess that's just how I look at it.
Yeah, but where does that come from? Like, what's your foundation? Like, did you have emergency services in your life? Did you have firefighting in your life when you were back in Ohio? I mean, where?
My pops, my dad, he really he said to me he always wanted to be a firefighter. So I guess that was an ambition when he was younger. And so for me, and then of course I told you I got a few family members who are on the job up there, right? And I always saw how it was a reverence to it where it was like a big deal. Where I'm from, Toledo, is industrial, right?
Yeah.
So a city job's a big deal. It's factories, right? It's a lot of factories. You can work a dock job off of the Great Lakes.
Yep.
And then you have like city jobs.
Yeah.
So it's in a pretty high reverence in the area that I'm from. And so, and again, like I told you, I left there to try to get certifications and all that kind of stuff, and because it just seemed like it was just insurmountable at the time.
Was that area it limited your abilities? Like, did you think you needed to get out of there to get what you needed?
Like so, yeah.
Yeah, with the intent to go back.
Yeah, with the intent to go back. The pond felt like it was huge. It was thousands and thousands and thousands of applicants.
I
mean, at my mind at the time, but then you got to remember too, I'm only like 20 years old.
Oh, I get
time,
that.
so.
Yeah, no, I get that, man.
Not even. So
yeah,
it's always been a high reverence thing for me. Like, it was Firehouse down the street from me where I grew up at, and then it was just like giant mysterious thing to me in my mind. Like, wow, like look at that. Those guys there, they really, they're really doing that thing. And so I was trying to figure out the things that I wanted to do. I didn't pan out for the NBA. I was a bit short. So I decided.
Really? Come on, man.
Yeah, I was about a foot short or so. So that didn't work
great.
for me.
That's funny.
But it was still in the vein of the things I liked growing up, like with the sports and then the team concept. So it really fit for me. It really did. And ever since I decided that was the thing I wanted to do, it really has. It's been nothing but great.
I can't imagine though. Like I think that's very powerful, right? When you break it all down, and to be conscious of the fact that you like that team aspect, the sport aspect of it, right? And that's how you were growing up, and the mysterious firehouse on the corner, and knowing what they did there or wanting to learn more about them. But at 20 years old, to make a decision to pick up and travel south. Right. I mean, this isn't the next town over. I mean, you went from Ohio to Georgia on a whim.
I got close. I got as the person who called the department who called me first was who got me. But honestly, I felt like I would have went anywhere in the world for it. I mean, honestly, I would have. It just was a thing that I wanted to. Everything so far is I want to do that, and I'm pretty much just do whatever I have to do the next thing.
I absolutely love it. I think that, when we talk about, I know in the Northeast, guys that want to get hired, the younger kids in my firehouse that are looking to get hired somewhere and so on, educating them that it's a full-time job to get hired, especially in the Northeast. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And you have to commit. And in the words of a friend of ours, fall in love with the process, right? You got to be romantic about the process.
Absolutely. It's a thing where you can't never, to me, felt like you can't let anything be a roadblock. Whatever the next step is, you can't let it stop you. So you say, well, man, it's 10,000 applicants and it's only 30 spots. And I used to make a joke. It's a joke, but I used to say, the guys we was at the CPAT, they say, man, we got like 3,000, 4,000 applicants this time and it's only 30 spots. And I would say, yeah, man, it's crazy. All you guys are competing for 29 spots. That was kind of what I said to it. It was a joke, but honestly, it was a thing that was like,
that's the mindset.
I want this to be here.
Hell yes, and that's my point. But where does that come from?
Man,
why are you like that?
I wish I knew.
Okay.
Honestly, my wife would probably ask the same thing. She would probably say, "Why are you like this?" No.
Are you? Yeah, well, my wife asks the very same thing. But are you like that outside of the firehouse too? Like because
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think so. So I'll tell you, I'm in the sports. So I'm in the. I coach youth basketball too, and
Nice.
and I get really. It's a passion thing for me. I love the sport of basketball in the same vein that I love the fire department, and I tell these younger guys like, you have to let it permeate. Whatever it is, you have to let it really, you know. I know sometimes it feels like you're getting too deep, or it's like we start talking about it. And for basketball theory, I got like this hour-long soliloquy about, how the whole game works and how it all works. But it's the same thing with the fire department. We do training here, and we go do our training with Fire Life, and I start talking about why forcible entry is, why we do it this way, or why we do it that way, and it really comes to the point where you have to realize everything matters. You have to really let your passion, be okay with your passion showing, and really divulge yourself in whatever it is that you want, and whatever you want to get out of either this training or this game, or even in life. If you're going for the job, you want to get a job somewhere, you want to work here, do everything you possibly can do, and do not stop, and don't let anybody stop you until you get to where you want to go. But then keep in mind there's something to do after that too, and as long as you keep that, so I'm not trying to
I love it. That's why I'm letting you go with it, because I think it's very powerful. And the fact that your love for the job is never in question, because the one time that we've met and spent the weekend together, like, it was just, like I've said before, when we started, it was infectious, your attitude and the way you talk about the job. I watched you teach, and it was fun to watch you teach some forcible entry, and I watched your interaction with the students, and you are full paced. Like, we're not forcing doors without SCBA. Like, let's do it with SCBA, right? Let's have some real conversations here. What I really liked was when you were going through the props. They're just door props, right? So there was some, back and forth, whatever. But then what you talked about was, everybody opens the door, they belly in, they do their sweep, they come, you're making them mask up. You're making them cross that threshold. And that part of it is really powerful, because it's the methodology in which matters, right? We're not just teaching the skill, we're teaching the theory and the reason behind it too, right?
Yes.
Do you find the same parallel when you're teaching that youth basketball? It's very much the same way, right?
It's a lot like that. So the thing with the Fire Life training, and the thing about why I really like it, with Todd lets me kind of, he lets me have my shop when it comes to that, right? What I love the most about these things is I like to tell the kids when we're playing ball, everything matters, right? Everything matters. What I mean by that is that the details, the small itty bitty things, are all a part of one big picture. So a lot of guys like to stand. They do it. I say, like, some guys do a grandstand, and they're much better at it than I. I don't do a good, like, super long lecture, but I can tell you, if you're standing, like this, and if you turned a little bit, it'll help you. Or if you're working your tool up, but if you make sure that you get your tool all the way into the door to the jam, then you'll be able to force the door better. Making sure that the tool goes all the way to the door, maxing out that tool, maxing out your mechanical advantage. All those little small things all turn into one big picture, and it all matters. And you ever seen to draw the parallel when you talk about like basketball and firefighting? You ever seen a game that looks disjointed, like a lot of turnovers and a lot of smacking the balls back and forth? Nobody really see. It's those little small things that if you make changes and you make corrections to the way that you do it, you could actually change the whole picture of the game. And I think that's why I love instructing and going out and teaching, because we can really work on those little small details that actually turn into a big picture.
Did you learn that when you were young playing sports, or did you mature into that mindset believing that everything matters? Because I know for me at a younger age, you take shortcuts. The corners aren't so sharp, right? They're rounded. So we take the easy way sometimes. And in fact, that's where we suffer in life, because if you choose to go the easy way and not the hard way, and you don't believe that everything matters, well, then where are you going to end up?
The small, I think that came later in life, just after being out of the house and being away from my family so soon.
20 years
I
old
think
on the road.
started to develop that concept in my mind where I felt like every little inch you take, don't give any back. You know, that was kind of I think it was the growing up aspect, I guess to say, and developing but learning that and then putting it into instructor form didn't come until much later when I start being around guys like Todd and Mickey and Anthony, and I would listen to them and go to, because I didn't, you know, like, I mean, even to today, those guys to me, I like, you know, they're a cut above. You know, they're the highlight act,
brother.
They're the highlight act when we go.
Listen, man, I live that life every single day in the fire services. Like, for me, everybody I talk to, I put on a pedestal well ahead of where I am in the fire service, and so for me, I'm just like this humble student that, you know, likes to listen and just kind of chuckle about, like, ha, I can't believe I'm friends with these guys. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly. Oh, that's how. Honestly, Jared, that's how I felt when I met you, because I listened to your show.
You're
and
ridiculous.
He said, "Hey, you want to be on?" I said, "Yeah, with me. All right, sure, man. Whatever. If you want to hear what I got to say."
Well, I do, because I want you to realize too that what you bring to the table and your attitude and the way you. The aura about you and how you present information. I watched you talk with the guys that were lined up doing forcible entry with you, and you guys were doing some padlock stuff, some chain stuff, and you're explaining, you know, I watched the one guy that was struggling trying to break the padlock with the forks of the Halligan, and you're like, no, man, you got to put it in line, and he's like, no, it is, and you're like, no, man, it's not, and there was this like back and forth, but what it wasn't sugar-coated silliness. It wasn't this like checkbox stuff. It was real type of conversation. And the I don't want to say student, but the guy that was there that was struggling with that at that moment, he had a real moment with you and you were like, bro, give me the tool. I'll show you what I mean. And you did it. And then he did it again. And he understood. Like, you weren't afraid to get your hands dirty. You weren't afraid to get on his level. You weren't afraid to talk to him like an actual human being and not like a robot. That shit matters, because that guy, what he took away from that weekend, I can tell you this, he learned how to break padlocks. He learned how to force entry because you put yourself on a level with him that he needed to relate with you, and you were willing to do that. And that matters, man. That matters.
Hey, man. That's what I love about it, man. I'll be honest with you. That's honestly the thing I love about it the most. And that's why I love doing the hands-on stuff, because with the hands-on, we can actually do it together. The whole trick behind it to me too is that, like, I go to these things and I learn so much more than I actually give every single time I go teach a forcible entry class. Some guy says, "Oh, you know, have you tried it like this, tried it like that?" And I said, "Oh, I haven't tried everything. I'll show you my way. I hope you like it." And then we talk about conceptually the concept of forcible entry and all that, and understanding that, you know, this is just the buy-in. You got other things to do behind there. You know, the reason why we do it this way. But it's such a, not to get off track, but it's such a great thing to me, because I love going and actually, you know, we're all in this together.
Forever a student, man.
Every person, and I say this to the guys too all the time too. You talk about, to me, it's homage to the guys who I learned it from. I literally didn't come up with any of this. This is from the older captains who taught me this, or, you know, they may not have gone out as an instructor, but they took me out back and showed me how to force doors. This is the senior drivers who were saying, "Hey, Brandon, stop kicking the door, because if you hurt your foot, now you're a part of the incident. Stop using your shoulder. Do it like this, do it like that." And so for us to be able to go out and teach and put it on the road, it's paying homage to those guys, you know, who were doing this, but they weren't able to get their message out, you know, to the masses like we are nowadays. So I think that to me, that's my favorite part. That guy who, I remember which guy you talk about too. That guy who took something away from it, for sure. That guy who when we had that moment, him and I together, those are the moments that I'd spend a whole week there, even if it was one guy who just walked away with something.
100%. This episode's brought to you by Fast Rescue Solutions. Fast Rescue Solutions was created with the mission to develop products and training that surpass currently accepted industry standards and that meet the operational challenges of the real world. Their mission is, always has been, and it always will be to revolutionize rescue and save lives. Fulfilling both the mission and the vision, the Fastboard is a disruptive technology in rescue. Invented by 28-year Philadelphia firefighter Eric Allen, who has over 20 years in the Philadelphia Fire Department Special Operations Unit. Nationally, the average time for rescuing a downed firefighter is 15 to 20 minutes using 5 or more members. The Fastboard has the ability to reduce that time to 5 minutes or less using only 2 to 3 members, which is 500 times faster than the national average. Originally designed to get a firefighter down and out of a basement, the Fastboard has been proven effective in nearly every rescue situation. RIT, confined space, trench and ice water rescue, hazmat, mass casualty, and the list goes on and on. Its simplicity and versatility make it a game changer. I've been calling it a game changer for the last 5 years, and it truly is changing the way firefighter removal and rescue and civilian rescue is being done. Come find them at FDIC. They'll be at booth 13120 in the Capitol Corridor. Also this year, it's known as Firefighter Row. There's a ton of firefighter-owned businesses out in that Capitol Corridor. That's where you want to be, supporting our own. Stop in and see the crew from the Fast Rescue Solutions for live demos and meet the tribe. Their tribe, there's nothing better than that. This is tried and true brothers and sisters that are into the game, and they are making the job better. Join them Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of FDIC week from 3 to 5 in the main corridor, and you can have a cold one with them for happy hour. Come down, meet the crew, let them know who you are, and let them show you why they're changing the game. Fast Rescue Solutions, changing the game in the way we're protecting our own and the civilians we're sworn to protect. Check them out. I get it, and that's always the common theme with guys that teach, right? Because ultimately, you know, I mean, that's what it's truly all about. And I think what's really fun about that conversation is, just to back up by a moment, but you talked about the senior guys that were in your firehouse that taught you, you know, don't use your foot, use the tool. Don't use your shoulder, use the tool, right? Like, it's all those things. And that type of mentorship, I'm sure, really laid a foundation for you and how you are and your demeanor now on the fire ground and how you talk to guys, right? I mean, because you're at that point now, 11-year guy. Like, I love the 10 to 20-year guy. We always talk about the new guys in the firehouse, or we talk about the senior man. But I love, and more, I want to focus on the middle year guys, the guys like 10 to 20 years, because that's where they have had a bunch of years under their belt now. They should be pretty proficient at their job, right? And this is where they absolutely make change in the fire service. They either promote up or they're mentoring down, right? And they have this unbelievable ability to flex either way. You are recently promoted in the last 6 months to a lieutenant spot now, right?
Yeah, man.
Let's run down that lane before we head back to the training aspect, because I do want to talk a lot more about that stuff. But let's head down the lieutenant lane real quick, because 11 years in the Atlanta Fire Department, you're a lieutenant now. You went from riding backwards to riding forwards.
Yep.
What's that transition like, man?
It's so. First off, I'll say this. I can never say it. I love it. And it's fantastic to me because of the amount of influence that you're able to have on the crew and then the organization. Because we spend a lot of time, you know, in our younger years saying, man, when I make officer, I don't want to do that. Or when I make officer, I want to do this. Or even if it's a thing that you like, I want to emulate that. I want to be just like that guy, right? Yeah. So you spend so much time, and then now you're finally able to do it, right? You get to pony up and do it. What we're not prepared for, I guess, is the internal battle that you have with yourself and try to, still be in love with the process and not rush it, because you want to come into the firehouse. And this crew, the crew that I'm assigned to now, to me, this is opinion. To me, this is the best lieutenant spot in the Atlanta Fire Department, in my opinion. Not to mention that the crew that I have,
it's supposed to
I couldn't have been luckier. Right? Yeah, I couldn't be luckier to come to the crew that I come to.
Love
right?
Mm-hmm.
And even still, with that, you had that struggle with yourself. And where are you? Am I? You know, I want to be I don't want to be what's the word for it? Like I don't want to crowd the guys. I want to give them the opportunity to because they're
Let
skilled,
them
they're
work.
talented, and they yeah, of course, and that's the thing, right? So and then that transition of going from officer to or from firefighter to officer. You aside, let me say this real quick. I want to get off track, but you want to know what the weirdest part to me was?
Nope.
Like the weirdest part.
What?
In culturally here, the officers don't go in the guys' bunk room. So we're having a good time. We're hanging out, following our traditions here, this firehouse, all this stuff. And we all start to part ways. And I get like to the door, and it's like this invisible wall that reminds me of the fact, like, hey, don't go back there.
Right.
That's not for you. But, being recently promoted, I've been back there 5,000 times.
Sure.
So now just, learning that space and then always taking care of your guys. Chief Edwards or Todd Edwards, he was he was my BC. And I've listened to him for quite some time. So I take a lot of advice from all of his classes about leadership. And I really try to, put it into practice. But getting to the point where, you have it perfected and it's not a thing where you have to battle your decisions in your head. Should I do this? Should I have done that? Should I have said this? Should I not have said that? Was I picking on that guy too much? Like, making fun of too much? Or, should I have laid back a little bit? It's just one of those things, man. I guess that's the cool part too, of like learning the process and loving it. We're all in it together. I don't know the answer to how you fix any of those things. I'll figure it out as time goes by. I've only been a lieutenant for 6 months.
Well, what I think is really important in that whole conversation. One, it's you're human, so you're going to make mistakes, and the fact that you have the self-awareness about yourself to realize that you are having this internal struggle at times matters, because that means you're in touch. That means that you understand the process, and you understand that you need to give yourself some space too to actually learn that role, right? I mean, it took you 11 years to learn how to be a fireman and then be able to put yourself to the next step now, right? Now it's going to take you another 11 years or 5 years or whatever it is to figure out if you want to be a captain or a chief or whatever, right? Whatever the next step is. But my point is you're starting over again. And you get thrown into that lieutenant position. But the things that you talked about, I mean, you just listed a bunch of bullets, like don't rush the process. Internal struggle, always take care of your guys. I wrote down mental filing cabinet because like that's my way. I was going to come back and ask you that question, but like you have all these ideas and thoughts as a fireman, like when I'm a boss, when I get to make change, when I get to do this, when I'm in that position, I'm going to be able to do boom, 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 boom. But do you have that mental filing cabinet of things that you want to conquer, and then your next conversation was, but I can't rush the process? And that to me is like unbelievable maturity. Not that you're mature by any means, because I know you. But
I was like, brother, we just but mature wouldn't be the description.
But the maturity in the job and understanding that the process matters. The only way you get good at this, the only way you progress through the fire service is by maturing and enjoying the process. Don't rush it, man.
Yeah, don't push through. And I agree 100% with the fact. I tell you a thing when I look at it and say, well, so here I am now in this position where, I'm a lieutenant in this company, and every last single one of these guys knew me before I was.
Right.
So as you're maturing, having people who they know you and they know what you're about, they understand that you're a new officer, and being honest and being able to, communicate with the guys who you have, being honest in your communication and saying, hey man, we all realize where we are in this process. I'm going to do my best. I mean, my 100% best to make sure I take care of you, but I'm not going to be anybody. My role is different, but you already know who I am before I got here. So to try to perpetrate anything else, you wouldn't be happy. You wouldn't enjoy that. Nobody wants to be a version of a fake, be somebody who they're not.
That's right.
And I think that's the part that really allows me to enjoy it so much, because, I mean, I got, senior drivers here. These guys got good bit of time on the job. And then sometimes they may talk to me and ask me a question. I look at them and tell them, hey, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I do. I will find out for you, but I really don't know the answer to that. So I think that's the thing that is able to make me stay happy about it too, though. Just being able to be honest and just, be yourself. and enjoy the process of growing while you're in it. So.
Well, 100%. I mean, if you went to work every single day and you had to put up a facade, or you had to not be true to who you are, or your relationships with your guys are fake, or you're hiding your experience level because you say you're one thing and you're worried that when the bell goes off or the boops, the beep boops go off, that you have to now perform to what your mouth has said you can do.
Right.
Think about it, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's a full-time job, man. That's like being a fucking bullshit artist, right? So
yeah,
like,
it'd be hard to do.
it's a full-time job, and that's why people put their guard up so high. But when you allow yourself to be true and authentic to who you are, and like you said, man, I have it circled, underlined. I think it's going to be the title of this episode. Everything matters. Yes. That means, listen, growing up as a fireman, as a young fireman, and coming up through the ranks, like you're allowed to make mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. It's how you recover from them, and it's how you carry yourself. Everything matters. And then all of a sudden, now you're riding the front seat and you get promoted. If you're fully aware of who you are with your self-awareness and assurances, and you carry yourself in an authentic way, nobody's going to have anything on you when you promote. And you're going to be the same guy you were, just a different level of learning and instruction and discipline and so on. But, like, you're still the same guy.
Yeah.
And I think that matters.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, all the whole package, you know. Man, Jeff, and this too, like I know my wife, she gets tired of me probably listening to these. She says, Brandon, it's so long. Like, oh my goodness, Brandon. She understands, though, how I talking to her about this, and she's kind of like always a sounding board for me.
Sure.
And then she's just like, wow, that is, you just, whatever it is, a really small thing, and then you try to paint the whole picture. These little itty bitty things, they actually seem like they all add up. And I tell her, I like to look at myself. I hope that I am what I believe I am when I say I like to be a holistic thinker. This little small thing right here, just your interaction with this guy, you know, being an officer, might shape his whole viewpoint of how officers are to treat him, or how 100%. They will treat him for the rest of his career. So it all matters. It doesn't put you in a space where, you know, you're nervous to do things, but it puts you in a space that as long as I'm always honest about how I am, or as long as I'm always honest to myself and to this guy, then it's even okay if there was a mistake there, because there was nowhere, you know, there's not a layer that you got to peel through of dishonesty and then, you know, losing trust. And that's kind of the big deal for that. And it really does. It all matters. Every bit of it.
I love everything you just said, man. That is all important stuff. Mentorship is important to you. You talked about Todd a little bit. You said he was your battalion chief. Where did that relationship come from? How did that blossom?
Speaking of being immature, so I came here and I had the complex probably. I had like 5 years or so on the job before I got there. So, and not a know-it-all complex, but it's a 5 year. You're a 5 year dude. That's a dangerous spot.
Yeah.
Because you know just enough to get yourself hurt.
Yep.
But I got to sign a company too under Captain Rice, and Captain Rice is like, if you ever seen a picture of a guy, like a black and white fireman, like a black and white picture, like the old school guys, big mustache. Yep. Okay, straight, just, you know, salt to the earth, traditional old school captain. That was him. And so I meet him, and then Todd comes through the door. I meet him. I'll be there for a couple of days. Todd comes through the door, right? And he says, Rook, don't you dare talk to that chief. You don't talk to the chief. He says it like that's how he talks to, right? And so for like 6 months, I didn't say anything to him, but like high in the head now.
Yes.
But I would hear him come over and train everybody. And as he would sit there and come in, this guy trains on the weekend, right? As a battalion chief, but not like come out here and read some paper and nothing like that. I mean, like in gear here, I'm going to do it for an hour. And he did it with all of his companies.
Yep.
And I was like, yo, this guy, he's like, this is the real deal.
This is legit. Yeah.
this guy's the real deal.
Yeah.
And so when I get the opportunity to, and then, you know, probably a year goes by, and a year goes by or so, and I finally, you know, got up the nerve, I guess, to ask him, hey, man, if you ever need some help, because I know you're going to burn down at the academy, I want to come and help out. And so then he goes, yeah, sure. You could come down, you throw pallets. Yeah. All right. I come down throw pallets for him the first time. It was like the greatest experience of my life. I mean, I listened to him talk. We're throwing pallets on there, and he would make it. It was a big joke to me, but he'll say to everybody. He'd say, "Oh man, look at that guy. You're making that fire, and that fire is huge. Only one pallet." And he looked at me and said, "Man, that fire is awesome, man. You're really doing it, you know."
Right.
So I threw pallets for him, and time goes on, and I'm just following him. Every time he has to go down there and teach, I'm asking him, "Can I come throw pallets for him?" I'm having fun throwing pallets, but I'm also feeling like I'm learning a lot. So I want to keep being attached to what he's got going on. And so then, time goes on. I said, I don't know, maybe 5 more years in Atlanta. I said, man, I really want to be an instructor. That's what I told him. He said, yeah. He said, okay, well, you got to go to classes, this and that. And he'd give me a little bit of this and that at a time. And then after a while, it'd be like, go for pallets and now safety. And then, after a few rotations, he'll say, well, you go ahead and go, and I'll stay here in the back and I'll listen to you. And so that was how that kind of, it just kind of progressed to that. And then Fire Life started. He asked me, "Don't want to come?" And then I was like, me, again, one on stage. You want me to come? I know there got to be somebody else you can call, but if you want me to, I will come over there and have a good time at Fire Life training. So I come over there and start working with him. And, the rest is all, what it is from there, man. I mean, it's been a good time.
I'll say this, man.
A great time.
Knowing Todd, he's been on the podcast a few times, being on the training grounds with him, like, he is no joke. He brings a level of energy and excitement and real world experience. It's all packaged up into this unbelievable delivery. And I'll tell you, man, just a few weeks ago when we were in Alabama together, I watched him for 2 days straight, and I can't believe, this is a guy that literally got an IV at the end of each day just to get his fluids back in him, right? Like, he goes hard from sun up to sundown. And I have to say, for you to be able to be a part of that process, to have a mentor like that, right? What has that done for you?
It is, I'll tell you what, I could probably go for weeks and tell you that. Honestly, it's so much to it.
Were you looking for that? Like, did you?
Oh no, I didn't expect that. Yeah. I just was having a good time on the way, man. I didn't expect it to be so off the job, and even as a BC, he's a great officer in to work for.
Right.
But the thing to me is even away from the job, he was such an incredibly real person.
Yes.
And like I told you, being farther away from home and everything, it was kind of a, I'm very protective of my relationships that I make. And
rightfully so, the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, he's such a really real guy, And I'm having so much fun in the process. It took so much longer for me to realize what I was getting out of it. And then I start to be around at these training events that he's going to, and I'm meeting these people, and just the people who you talk about the circles, the circle that I was starting to build. I was like, I cannot believe that I'm here. It kind of just like, it looks up and then it happens, but just even I get a lot of good advice is an understatement. I get a lot of great advice about the job, and even life advice.
That's the thing, right?
And that's really important.
Yes.
So
I think one of the most important things, right? We talk about mentorship on the job, but I also think about like life mentoring also. And I think that there's a lot of people in our worlds, and if you don't have anyone, you need to find 1 or 2 people that have had some more life experience than you that can maybe share some stories with you, or just kind of mentor you in life, because you can grow up through other people in a way. And I think that, watching, and listen, you talk about like meeting these people at the conferences, and like your circle grows, and you start to develop your own circles, and it overlaps with somebody else's circle, like all of that. But man, what that does for me personally is makes me better. Like, I think I'm a better person today than I was just yesterday, let alone 5-10 years ago. And it's because of the willingness to open yourself up to understand that there's people out there in this world that are just better than me. And if some of that can rub off on me, I can be better.
Yes, I agree. I met even these guys who I'm meeting now. So I give you an example. Like I watched a lot of, looked at the Instagram page and all that stuff about like Mickey's page, right?
Yeah.
And so I meet the guy in real life, and it was one of those things. It's like, yo, I've been reading this dude's page. Like, this guy's, he's like a fire department scholar in my mind, right? When I meet him, right? Come to find out, I meet him, man. We like the same kind of music. Dude's chill like me. We kind of got the same mindset, and it was great to kind of be able to, you talk about being able to take away more than just a picture frame of what this person is on the fire department. When you get to see these people in the setting that we are in all the time, when it comes to the training, it's a personal ability to it that gets added to it that really makes it so much more important. I say something about that real quick. All the time with the guys, I used to go. This is a thing I did. We go to the store, we go to Kroger, and then I buy a Hot Wheel. And it was an illustrative point to my guys. I will buy this Hot Wheel, and I say, it represents the fact that I have things to do tomorrow. I'm about to give this Hot Wheel to my kid tomorrow. So today we're going to do everything to make sure that we can make it back to the house tomorrow. It adds a bit of like, I feel like I'm ranting a little bit, but
No,
it adds some personal aspect to it where you're off the page. You're not just a picture of a guy in a fire helmet where I just say, oh man, that guy, he must be salty because he looks like this and he looks like that. But when you add that personal aspect to it really sends home the point, when you get to see somebody for being, nobody's perfect, when you get to see the human aspect. And that's the same thing when it comes to bring back, talks about the mentorship and then these circles that you make. When you get close to these people and you see the human aspect, then the things that they say really, really, really stick, because you can understand, hey, they really mean it, man. They're not just spitting something out of a book. They're not just saying something that they're saying to try to impress you. They really mean it. It really matters to them, right? So what's the phrase that we say? Everything matters. Well, you can figure out that that's true about the way that they are looking at the fire service. It really makes it such a more enjoyable experience, man. It's amazing at that point,
I love it. I mean, because not only that, but it makes it human. And when you make it human, it's more personal. And when it's personal, you're going to fight harder for it. Right? Like, this is why we got to buy into our people. This is why we need to learn the guy that you're riding with. You need to learn what their family is like, their kids' names, their wives' names, what they do for a living, all those things, because that personal connection matters. And in fact, it's going to make us work harder. It's going to make us better, right?
Yep.
So I wrote down a note. It says, Todd exposed you to a lot of this. Are you exposing other people to it? Are you are you now taking a mentorship role, maybe informally? Maybe you don't even know you're doing it, but there's a couple guys that like maybe, kind of hang on a couple of your words, or like, are you now paying that forward?
I hope. I tell you this, I don't think that he short until you probably listen to this podcast I talk great about. I say thank you. We talk often, but it's not. I don't even know if you understand when you're really doing that for someone, or when you're really doing that to someone.
100%.
And I really hope that I have guys who, when they come to me, I'm just honored that they came to me and asked me, well, what do you think about this? Or when they say, hey, what about that conference? Or what about this class? Or what about that? What do you think? And, when they really want to come to, or even when I see guys from the city come to stuff like this, and they're like, man, I heard you was teaching, man, I want to come. Like, I really hope that I can really put that impact in as big as he has.
Yeah.
Because, I'm trying to be intentional about it. And I just appreciate the fact in the process that it's natural for me, that it's naturally happening for me, that, when guys are coming to me and ask questions, or when they're asking me for advice about classes to go to, or even signing up the classes and say, man, I heard you teaching here, so I wanted to come. Like, that's all great to me, man. I love that part of
well, let me tell you something. What you just said was one of the best lines I've heard in a very long time, and it says, try to be intentional about it. You try to be intentional about it. Listen, the only way you can be intentional about it is when it's important to you and you put it in front of yourself. People aren't intentional about their offerings or what they're willing to do if they don't put themselves second. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely, yeah. Student first. It's a big thing in fire life training. It's like, I tell the guys too when we're out there teaching, I say, hey man, listen, I know that it says it is at 4. We say this too. If you want to do this more, we can stay here until tomorrow, until you feel like you got it right. it doesn't, because I'm here for you, and that's just but that's a cultural thing, even within that training cadre that really he's put into us, and I'm really trying to put it into guys too. I had a few younger guys come and say, "Well, what do I have to do to be an instructor?" And I said to them, even itself, like, first thing you have to do is learn, and then the second thing you have to do is really, you got to understand that it's more than just standing at the grandstand. You really have to put other people ahead of yourself and their learning process, and when that actually happens, then you'll be ready to do it. And these guys are young; they got a couple years on the job, so we'll see how. Again, hey man, we still got time to go. We'll see how it goes. I really hope it does. I really hope they take to it. So
there is something about your delivery, and there is something about no, I mean that there's just something about it that I think is really inviting, and I think that you have the unbelievable potential to reach many people, and I think that as you move on in your career, I mean, you're a new lieutenant. You're willing to talk about some of the struggles and transitions that you're having within the last 6 months. You're willing to have real conversations. You're being open and honest about that, right? Too many guys jump into that seat and think they know it all, and they're failing. They're failing themselves, and they're failing their people every day. But when you can have those open conversations and you're willing to be authentic and true about it, that's where you find success, and that's where you find the ability to possibly rub off on some others and share the positivity of the job and the messages and so on. So I think your delivery is just incredible, and that's what kind of draws me to you in our meeting and just getting to know you. I mean, it's I told Mickey, I said, "You're going to become my new best friend." He's like, "No, you're not. He's mine." I said, "Okay." So, but it's just but it's very funny, right? And I appreciate the relationships, and I look at like the intent of this podcast every single time is I don't need to invite the biggest names in the American Fire Service to come talk to me. Like, a lot of people know those stories already. I want to find guys that are just absolutely madly in love with the job and paying it forward, and you're one of those guys, man. That just and I love that about you. What's next for you? I mean, you're right now in Atlanta where you are. You said you're in the best company with the best crew, and of course you are because that's where you belong, right? And so special ops, right? So you enjoy that type of work?
Yeah, I do. I actually, it's one of those things that it causes you. Special operations, here's a secret too. Special operations are generally in companies that go to a lot of fire business, and I really like to go into fire business. So that's how I even started out with taking a ropes class to begin with. I was like, yeah, this is a lot of. They go to a lot of fires. If I gotta go get a ropes or whatever to go to fires, I want to go with them, right?
That's fantastic.
That was how it even started there. And but then after a while, you start doing that, and it's like, wow, this stuff really makes you. It really makes you think, and it's just for guys who want something extra, who want something, more. It's never an ego thing. I know sometimes we meet the guys who do the special operations stuff, and it's like, wow, they must think that they're like, firefighting gods or something like that. It's not an ego thing. It shouldn't be an ego thing. You put it like that.
Yeah.
It's the whole gig is all about, servant leadership. The more I know, the more I can help somebody else do, or if you get jammed up, if I know how to help you out, that's the whole point of me doing it, right? Not to me walk around like I got something somebody else doesn't have. So it's not that kind of thing ever. Anyways, I say all that to say, I really enjoy that aspect of the job. And, as far as what's next, man, I don't know. Who knows? So far, all the stuff that comes to me has come by the fact that I'm just enjoying and loving what I'm doing. And when something else cool presents itself, I go with that. So I guess we'll see. I really don't know. I don't have an ambition to have any kind of like right now. As good as it gets. Hopefully I'll promote again when we get the opportunity, and hopefully the assignment is just as great as my last two have been.
Well, you know what I love? I mean, that literally goes to how this whole podcast started. And you just said you're a lucky guy, and this happened, and that happened, and this happened. And I'm like, no, you make your own luck, man. And I think that that's really the underlying theme of this whole episode is that, you do the right thing, you do the hard work, and good things can happen. And man, what a fun conversation today, man. I absolutely enjoyed talking with you. It was a lot of fun.
Dude, I'm glad you had me, man. I love it, man. It's awesome, man. Call me anytime, brother. Even if you ain't on a podcast, we'll rap about it. You got firefighting stuff to talk about. I promise you, I'll talk to you about it.
I know. Well, I mean, but listen, like this is, the conversation we just had for the last 50 something minutes now has just been, really good stuff. I mean, it's just like, for me, it's so important through these episodes that the listener will get some value out of it, right? We could sit here and just tell fire stories and, oh, yeah, tell me about that last job you went to. And you go, oh, yeah, lesson learned. I should have done this or I should have done that. That's all part of it, and I get that, right? But it's more of like the life lessons, and it's the struggles and the real conversation about what the job really looks like, or how important the mentorship is for you, or where you're headed next. Or I think people get a lot out of those conversations. And so, like, that's why I really like to focus on that. And what a fun conversation. Plus, it's a selfish endeavor for me, man. I got to, like, sit back and listen to you today and learn a little bit more about you,
Oh, man, yeah. I'll tell you that if anything, when it comes to that, when people just learning, loving it, man. And people talk about love with the process. The process is sometimes long. But if you have fun along the way, and you're honest about where you are, and you're honest to the people around you, then it'll always be a good time. You can't go wrong in the fire service, period, as long as you are doing those things, man. And that's just kind of how it's just landed for me,
I put up a post last night on social media where I just said, we ask people when they come into the fire service to go all in. We expect you to be all in. We want everything from you, including your life. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And then most fire departments let their people down. Right? We expect everything from our firefighters and officers, but the administration or the city or whoever typically lets us down. So it's, what do we do with that, right? We can fold and buckle and point fingers and fall down on the job and not do what we're sworn to do because we're going to let that affect us? Or are we just going to continue to push forward and we don't care what they say? We're going to do this job to the best of our abilities. And people can fall on either side of that argument, right? But ultimately it comes down to character and who you are. And whatever job I ever hold, I want to do it to the best of my ability. And I know that you feel very much the same way with that.
Absolutely.
And that's why this matters. And that's why conversations like this today matter, because we want to push this job forward. And if we can reach one person through this podcast conversation and make them feel good, or pick up their game, or let them realize that, hey, maybe I'm not as good as I should be these days, and I'm guys are looking at me and I need to turn it around, then freaking jackpot, brother. We did what we were set out to do. Yeah, we did what we were set out to do.
I seen that. I almost commented. I was going to comment on that yesterday, but then the baby woke up, so I didn't get a chance to write.
No,
but I was going to tell you. I would say I thought it was great, because I thought about how what you're saying is absolutely correct, and I felt like the only thing that we can do is change is try to grow our sphere influence. I love the job. I don't care how many people don't. I do. So if I can get 10 people around me to love it, and they can get 10 people around them to love it, then we do it. It's easier to be infectious when it comes to the negative. I could walk out of the fire department right now and tell everybody, hey, man, this place sucks. And guess what? A lot of people are going to say the same thing. Yeah, you're right, man. This place sucks. They don't do this. They don't do that. They don't do this. But you walk in a room full of firemen, you say, hey, guys, I'm having a really good time. I'm happy to be here. And then you might have one guy that says, yeah, you're right. You're something right. But then you start to permeate that room, They go somewhere else and do the same thing. We got to combat the bad with the good when it comes to this place. There's stuff that does need fixing, like, of course, right? And I'm not gonna sit up here and sound like a company man and say, no matter what, this is everything's perfect. I'm not gonna do that. But at the same time, though, like, it's so much good, so many good times. Sometimes you'll be sitting next to your best friend. You wouldn't even have met this guy. He's your best friend that you ever had in your life, right? In the firehouse with you. And instead of being grateful of the fact that y'all are there together, you talk about how bad something sucks because of A, B, and C that the city did.
Right.
And that's just kind of a thing, just that trying to have that positive influence on guys.
I love it. Well, brother, listen, I'm gonna sum up this whole episode right now. Sphere of influence. Only thing you can control.
That's it.
Surround yourself with good people and good things happen. Brandon Lewis, Atlanta Fire Department, brother, thank you for joining me today on the podcast. What a great conversation, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, brother. Thank you, man.
You're always welcome.
We'll hang out soon, yeah.
Yeah, I love it, man. I can't wait to cross paths with you again and share some laughs, man, because truly you're one of those guys that just make me feel good. And I love that, man. Keep smiling, keep loving the job, keep pushing it forward. I know you're making a difference, and I know you're making an impact, brother, and I wish you the absolute most success with your career, and good luck with as you continue to figure out the lieutenantship. And, man, I wish you nothing but unbelievable success, man. Thank you for joining me today. Appreciate you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I appreciate it, brother.
Good. Stay right here. I'm going to sign off the podcast. I'll come right back to you, okay?
I did.
Awesome. Guys, Lieutenant Brandon Lewis out of the Atlanta, Georgia Fire Department, Company 14. What a rock star, man. What a great conversation today. He's an instructor with Fire Life Training, and he's just spreading the good word, man. It's an infectious smile and attitude. We all need that in our lives. And like he said, everything matters. Everything you do in this job matters. So anyway, thank you for tuning in. Do me a favor, take this conversation, take it back to the firehouse and talk about it, because when you talk about the job, you're making the job better. We'll see you at the next one. Jeremy, National Fire Radio.
National Fire Radio.